What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me, but I just got home off of an early morning flight, right? First thing through the door, I want to see my family. I love my family. You know, I'm a family man. I'm an advocate for families, right? Second thing, I got to get that hot shower because I got to throw the threads on. The threads make me feel like $1,000,000, but the third thing through my mind and all throughout the trip is that I got to have that Teej pack. Teej makes my life uncomplicated. It's uncomplicated skincare for men. The first way that I started specifically was their level 1 system. It's a daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin. 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of the dead skin cells. An AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun. And a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. Here's the thing. My favorite part about Teej Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. They really making the process of achieving and maintaining amazing skin for men uncomplicated. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, the ability to customize your box, exclusive monthly deals, you can pause and cancel at any time, and you get free shipping. And because Teej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers an amazing deal, right? Just click the first link in the description and you get 30% off your first box, plus a free gift. It's an amazing deal. You got to get started today. You're not out here trying to look like a Dusty. And if you travel as much as I do, which I'm sure most people don't, but you know me, I'm pushing my bag chasers in order to be in the top 5%, top 10%, top 1%. We got to make our lives uncomplicated, and Teej Hanley is no better product. You got to look good. You got to smell good. And you can't be looking like a Dusty. Make sure you get started today. Click the link in the description. Get that Teej pack. Feel the Teej, my friends. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. Hold on, let me do something really quickly. Give me a second. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of the Millionaire Morning Show. I am your host, Anton Daniels. It is 11:58. Here, let me flip this around so y'all can see properly. You know what I'm saying? Let me see what we got going on here. It's 11:58 p.m. about to be 12 a.m. and we are kicking it. We doing what we do, and hopefully we can add some value into you guys' lives. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me, but this is the dedication that it takes in order to run a business, in order to be a successful content creator. You got to have a different level of grind and hustle and growth. And so I appreciate you guys for making sure that you stay consistent, that you taking care of business, that you all about what it is that it takes in order to be successful. Let me give another shout out to Q because she did a phenomenal show yesterday. And so I appreciate her for rocking out and taking care of business on that front. Y'all need to be servant leaders. Y'all got to be a servant leader. And a lot of people don't understand what it takes in order to be a servant leader. And being a servant leader is basically leading from the front and being on the front line and being an example of what it is that you think the culture should be, not only in your businesses, but also in your household, in life in general. You have to be the example of what it is that you advocating for other people to do. And most people are not servant leaders. Most people are not servant leaders, but we're going to get into that today. Again, I am live from my hotel room. I got my people over there sleeping. And then hopefully we have a phenomenal show, similar to how we had a phenomenal show yesterday, and we had a phenomenal show when it came to Q's show late night. All right, so first and foremost, let me go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. If you're looking to rock out with a group of people that's going in the direction that you're going in addition to being able to check out the interviews, unfiltered, uncensored, forever, because you guys know that I eventually remove it from the Anton Daniels channel. I archive some of the clips over at Don't Do Coke in the Bathroom, but you have access to all of the latest interviews uncensored. I'm uploading another one tomorrow, and in addition to all of the game. And then make sure y'all tap into the Discord. The link to the Discord is in the description of any of the most recent videos inside of the Patreon. So tap into that. The link to the Patreon is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. And also, shout out to Tej Hanley. Tej Hanley, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. Make sure y'all get into that. We got a lot of people in the chat that's asking a question, and they are very, very concerned with the title. And so people are saying, well, what are flatbacks? What are flatbacks? Well, I'm going to get into what flatbacks are shortly. Let me read a couple super chats a couple cash apps really quickly before we get into the show. Let me give a shout out to Mike, that dude that's always holding me down on Cash App. Every single day he drops something in a bucket. I don't ask for it, but he take care of it. So I'm actually going to give a shout out to my guy, because I think that that is awesome, and I want to acknowledge the people that support the platform. Also, let me give a shout out to Tommy Jean Jones with the 20 ball. I appreciate you. Thank you for holding me down on Cash App. Also, you guys are absolutely awesome. All right, so let's get into the show. All right. Flatbacks. All right. So I know that this is going to cause for conversation, and I'm here for it, because the one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we push the culture forward. All right. We got to push the culture forward. And so a lot of people in the chat are trying to understand, what is a flatback. A flatback is a woman that tends not to have as many curves in the back as we're used to. I'm going to put it lightly. And the reason that I'm putting it that way is because on the Q show last night, I know that there was some people in the chat, and maybe even on the panel, that wanted me to go after Miss Sanchez. I think that was her name, Miss Sanchez Erica, that was on the panel yesterday. But I couldn't find myself doing that. I just couldn't do it. And the reason that I couldn't do it is because she wasn't disrespectful. And I know people just want me to go in on women. And I think that it's a way that you can have conversations or even hold people accountable without being disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they do. The women that are on that show, which Q does a phenomenal job of finding and picking them and vetting through who should be on and who shouldn't, do a really great job of being able to communicate. We have passionate debates and discussions, but they aren't disrespectful. So you're not going to see me call them out of their name. You're not going to see me go at them. And it's very difficult for me to hold them accountable publicly on a platform like that and have that conversation by telling them the truth, even when they're asking for it, because I know they're not really ready for that type of conversation, right? But it's similar to this right here. And we talking about Japanese culture, because I was out and about yesterday, right? And me being out and about, I was in Akihabara. Is it Akihabara? And so I was in the streets, and we did a lot of things, and we went to the ramen places, and we went to the backdoor places, and bubble teas, and all of that stuff, right? And so we over in Japan, and we walking around, and we having a good time. And so I know that anime and the different things that's important to people is a thing over in the United States also. All of the women look just like this chick right here. A lot of the women that was standing around, walking around, they look like an anime girl. It's grown women that's walking around, and they look like a cartoon character. Now, me personally, I have never gotten into it. I don't understand the fascination with it. This is me actually walking around in the streets, and we were out and about. Japanese culture is also very much immersed in gaming, even to the point to where it's borderline gambling. Borderline gambling. They have a very huge poker culture. They have a very huge gaming culture. They got a huge anime culture. It's interesting. So this is me walking around in some of the different parts of Japan, and this is what I want to express to y'all as I'm having these conversations throughout the show. So I'm walking around, and they got a lot of these vending machines, and a lot of the machines where they come in and you got to try to have the little hand come in and they grab the thing and it bring it out and all of that stuff, similar to this right here. And you can see the worker putting another one out there. And so the money, the currency, all of this stuff in there. They got a huge Pokemon culture. It's interesting. And so this is me walking down the street. And if you look over on the right hand side sometimes, every once in a while, not on this particular walk, but when I was going the other way down the other street, a lot of the women that are standing over to the side and they advertise in the different businesses and stuff like that. This is me inside of one of the little gaming places. I have no idea what type of game it was. I was very, very fascinated with the fact that it was almost all men in there and they was just publicly gaming. They leave their house, they go out and they sit at these machines and they game all day. They have a huge electronic scene. It is a lot of visitors. Again, I did not see any. I mean, on this day in particular, I don't think that I see one black woman. No, I take that back. I did see one black woman. I seen one black woman that was not my family, and she wound up being able. She was walking by herself, so I seen one black woman. But as you can see, almost every single person there is Asian, and then you have some dots of white people or Italian people or people that are traveling from somewhere else, and you can tell who that they're not inherently from there because of the way that they talk and all of this stuff, right? But it is a interesting dynamic experiencing eating the food. You can see a guy with the blonde wig, all of the women. This is a girl right here that's posing for the gram essentially, or whatever their social media is. I'm assuming that they on the same type of social media or they got the same type of platforms and stuff that we do, but she was over there posing for the gram, for whatever it is. I'm gonna just say for the gram. um, and if you see right there on the left hand side, a lot of the women dress just like this. They have um, this Japanese culture where a lot of it is just anime inspired, and they got these little dresses on, and sometimes they make their eyes bigger and they have their ears more pointy, and they look like characters. You see the guy right there, that dude is tall as hell, and he dressed like an anime, right? And so it's a very interesting culture. But here's the question that I have for you guys. As I walk around and I see these different women and I'm paying attention to certain things or whatever like that. Here's the question that I have for you guys. Shout out to We Call BS. Um, I'm gonna answer that super chat shortly, and I'm gonna be reading super chats throughout the show. They say it's cosplay. Okay. And no, they all across, like all different types of businesses. They walking down the street with this stuff on. When we was walking down Takeda Street, I forgot what it was. It was this one store that was just like focused on cosplay and anime, and that store was booming. I mean, it was absolutely booming. Even my nephews, like they like it. They like the different cartoons and all of that other type of stuff, right? And I thought that that was interesting because I'm not into it, but I understand that it's a lot of people into it, so it's a big thing here. It's the culture. But here's my question, right? Here's my question. Um, being over here for a few days now, because I've been here since Saturday, right? Being over here for a few days now, and it's Tuesday. I don't see any women that are bigger than. I mean, it's you be hard pressed. First of all, there is no women that are overly obese. I have not seen one woman. I've seen one homeless guy since Saturday. And I've been out and about and touring and going into the back spaces and everything like that. I seen one guy that looked like he was homeless because he was just sitting and he looked a little bit depressed or whatever. But other than that, I haven't seen any homelessness. I haven't seen any morbidly obese women. You can see all of their collarbones. I haven't seen any butterfly eyelashes or huge exaggerations in the body. It doesn't seem as though they're impressed with the look of Western women. And so the question that I have is, because this is their norm. And I guess when you immerse in a culture for so long, you start to, understand that this is their norm. We got this thing where we say that, people are big boned. They big boned. They're naturally big. Everything is exaggerated. We want our women to look like a more exaggerated version of Betty Boop. I got two questions. My first question is to the fellas, to the men, because I know that it's a big thing about women being natural, but we don't have a really big conversation about women being thin. And I don't know if it's the food. I don't know if it's the culture. I don't know if it's laziness. I don't know if we've not embracing walking around as much. I don't know what it is. It could be a combination of all of it. It could be what it is that we've normalized within our cultures, whatever, right? Because it's not just black culture, it's Western culture. To the fellas, would you prefer to have a woman that is bigger, heavier, but more curvy? Or would you rather have a woman that's more polite, feminine, smaller, and a flat back? Would you rather have a woman that is bigger, curvier, or would you rather have a woman that is smaller and flat back? And it's no in between. It's no in between. I need my fellas in the chat to say curvy, bigger. They'd rather have them bigger and curvy, or you'd rather have them smaller and flat back. Let me know in the chat what y'all would prefer to have, because I'm seeing something that's completely different than what our cultural norm is. Smaller, flat back, bigger, curvier. Smaller, flat back, bigger, curvier. Now, y'all know that when these women are a little bit bigger, we're just going to say a little bit bigger. Y'all say obese and feminine. Flat back, curves, flat back, curvy. Curvy all day. Option 2. I see more people saying flat back than curvy. I see more people that saying flat backs than curvy. Flat back all day. Come on, flat back. You coming with me? Curvy, flat curves, flat tires, flat backs. I see a lot of guys in the chat that's saying that they would rather have a flat back than a bigger woman. No flat back curves. Give me flat back, curvy, flat back all day. Medium curvy. Has to be handicap accessible. 28 doses said he think the men is. I think the men are telling you the honest to God truth. They saying that they would prefer to have the flatbacks. They say they would rather have a woman that is 115, 120 flatback, 110, between 110 and 120 flatback. And ladies, you're seeing the sentiment of men, right? There's some guys that say that they would prefer to have them curvy. And the women need to understand that it's a difference between the women that you would bust down versus the women that you would want having your children or being with you for the rest of your life. A lot of times when these women are big, when they have children, they blow the fuck up and they never come back down, right? And they can't stop eating or whatever. They never really get it off. They not out here looking like Nicole Murphy. So let's be clear. Yeah, man. It's a lot of people that saying that they would rather have flatbacks. It's a lot of people that say that they would rather have flatbacks than they would want them bigger and curvy. So you can't say that you don't know now. You can't say it's some guys in there that's saying that they want some curvier, bigger, and curvier women. All right, let me rephrase the question. Let me rephrase the question a little bit. Would you rather? Because I want y'all to differentiate between having a woman and busting her down and being with a woman and a woman that's gonna marry, gonna have your children and be with you for the rest of your life. Would you rather have them a little bit bigger and curvier, married? You gotta marry her. This is the one you get for the rest of your life. No ifs, ands, buts, or changes. No takebacks. No takebacks. All right. No takebacks. I'm gonna be reading super chat shortly. Would you rather have them bigger and curvier, bigger and curvier, 180, 190, maybe approaching the 200 mark, depending on how tall she is. Would you rather have her bigger and curvier, because these women are bigger and curvier, or would you rather have them 110, 115, 120 and flat back? And you got to marry her. No takebacks. We're not talking about a woman that you busting down. We're talking about a woman that you would marry and you want to have your kids. 180, 190, but she's super curvy, or 115 flat back. What would you take? And you got to marry her. You got to marry her. You got to marry her. Damn, 205 max. Y'all not even leaving room for the kids. Good grief. Somebody said they changed their mind, give them the flat back. Yeah, this is the debate. This is the we gonna talk about this on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about it because a lot of y'all are on the fence. Y'all don't know what y'all want now. Y'all don't know what y'all want now. Now y'all feeling a certain type of way. Y'all trying to figure it out because you got to marry her and you got to have kids with her. Mm, mm. I will tell you this. I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Yes, I am live right now, and it is 12 o'clock at night. 12 o'clock at night. It's 12 a.m. 12:17 a.m. to be exact. The women over here, they are not super curvy. Um, they carry themselves well. They polite. They are awesome, but they are absolutely positively flat back. They are positively flat back. They fit. I was down in the gym yesterday, and there was a lot of women in the gym. And very rarely do you see a lot of women in the gym inside of the hotel. I seen a lot of women in the gym inside of the hotel after I got off the after I got up in the morning or whatever. So it was nighttime for y'all. They fit. They in the gym. They working out. They got good eating habits. They healthy. They don't have diabetes, and they fucking flatbacks. All right. So that's it. If you want them, then you got to take them flat over here. That's just it. And the question that I then have for myself is, are we fucking warped in our minds and that we think that being big is sexy? A woman sucking all of that shit out of her waist and getting it transferred into her ass and thighs and walking around, you would look like they don't stare at me, right? We don't get stares. Sometimes I let my wife or my daughter walk ahead of me or whatever like that, and ain't nobody staring. They just normal, right? Um, if you were big like that over here, I think that you would get some attention. Like if you got a BBL over here, they will be looking at you. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody. I'm just guessing. Um, yeah, man. Yeah. So our cultural norms, I think we gotta evolve. I think we need to change. I think we need to look at things a little bit more holistically. And the only way that you can do that is to compare yourself to other people. I know people like to say don't compare yourself, but how do you know where you at if you're not comparing yourself? If the only people that you see or the only norms that you see is within your own sphere, then I think that you're looking at it the wrong way. All right. So um, yeah, man, day two, walking around Japan, getting a little bit of insight and information, and it's different. It is absolutely different. It is awesome, but it's different. All right. Let me read some of these super chats, and then we're gonna deep dive into the show. Um, we call BS is in the building. That's a heck of a name. Shout out to We Call BS. Says, hey Anton, how can I become a part of the panel? Respectfully, D. You got to reach out to Q. Reach out to Q, Island Girl Q. She will absolutely give you some insight. If you reach out to me, you might have to go ahead and resend that email or reach out to Q. Q is the person that goes through and vets who should be on the panel and who should not be on the panel. Thank you for the question. I appreciate you. Alvin S. says, greetings, OG AD. Missed you live yesterday while selling with my lady. Now, that's an absolute good Phenomenal way to miss a live. If you gonna miss it, sell with your lady over in Cartagena, Colombia. Bag Chaser for Life International Edition. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Shout out to my bag chasers. Jason Lee says Asians have a culture of eating together in groups that usually facilitates proper portioning and care for one another. I have noticed that. People that are closet eaters or people that eat off of emotion tend to have worse eating habits than people that eat in a group, because I've even seen people that go out with us and then they try to act like they don't want nothing, and then they order a bunch of shit for carry out later, and then they take that shit home and then they they Homer Simpson in that bitch. So yeah, that is a good point. I think that that is a phenomenal point, and that's why we need to bring Shaman back, because when people looking at other people, they tend to do things a little bit differently. What up, Khalil is in the building, says Team Flatbacks in the building. Shout out to my dog Khalil. I appreciate you. J Hub says flatbacks over fupas. David X says women naturally will gain weight with time. That's true. That is absolutely true. It don't have to be true, but that is true in American culture. That's not true over here, because even older women, they not bigger. They smaller. They seem like they probably live longer. I don't know. Classy Beats is in the building, says the majority of women in America are either petite or curvy, aka fat. That's not really. There's not really an in between, and that's what I agree. I agree. I don't think it is an in between. David X says clubs don't start jumping until midnight in Japan. I will not be at the club. I don't care what country I'm in. I'm not a clubber, but shout out to you for the insight. The Brotherhood is in the building. Said I just got back from over there last week. Spent 12 days in Tokyo. Their food is healthier. They walk more. Yeah, I've been closing every fucking ring every day. They walk more. Respect and tradition runs deep in their culture. Didn't see one overweight lady. Their women are way more feminine. And he is absolutely correct. He is telling you the absolute truth. He is not lying to you, not even a little bit. He is telling you the truth. It's great. If you are a guy that's actually looking for a phenomenal culture, a healthier culture, women that are more polite, feminine, friendly, fit, then this is a place where you would want to come. You don't have to try to figure out or find one. You're not going to find no baby mamas walking around here that's making themselves available for you. Brock says curvy can be fixed and or adjusted with a decent diet. Nope. Listen, man, you're not gonna fix her. She not listening to you, and she is not about to do what it is that she need to do in order to get. So she didn't live. Brock, I hate to say it to you, big dog. Let me go ahead and give you the triangle. But you think that she didn't lived her whole life, her whole first 30, 40 years of her life, and then she gonna come in and change for you? Yeah, okay. Keep waiting for it. You wrong. You're wrong. Stevie Montage says, so you telling me you don't see all these black women with natural bodies working out and eating right all over social media? I don't really follow nobody on social media. The only thing that I see on social media is what y'all send me. I don't really. If you look at my Twitter, I'm not following nobody. Right? Threads automatically import people over to who I follow because I really be knowing people in real life. But I don't really be following. My algorithm is different. I be following financial people, inspirational. I follow Lamborghini. They got a new event that's happening on August 18th, so that's gonna be awesome. I do not. So maybe y'all do, and respect to y'all, but I am not familiar with it. Robert says tried a horse meat restaurant in Mignona, in Tokyo. That should be interesting. I've never had horse meat before. Ash, my dog. Shout out to my dog, Ash. AD, I know lots of prior military veterans overseas who will never return to the U.S. Prior to marriage, I cried like a baby when I came back to America. God forbid. But if my spouse should ever pass away before me, I'm on the first plane out. Some Asian are curvy. You know, I've been thinking about that, Ash. What would cause for me to leave? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I love the culture over here. I could stay here for an extended period of time. I don't think I can move away from America. I just don't. I love my city. I ain't even really talking about nowhere else. I love Detroit. As fucked up as it is, I'm just so Americanized. And I could live over here for a year, 6 months, whatever. I gotta tap back into my city. I gotta tap back into my city. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they got the hold on me on my heart or some shit. Maybe it's just the investments that I got there or whatever like that. Um, but I am absolutely obsessed with pouring into my city and all of that. And I understand why guys wouldn't move back, but for some reason, that's just the way that it is, Ash. I don't know what it is, bro. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you for holding me down. AL says, depends on if she's in shape, skinny, or bigger. She got to be able to at least run a few miles and work out daily. No, I'm not talking about plus size. Yo, man, there's some big women out there that can fucking do all kind of cardio. That don't mean that they in shape, and that don't mean that they healthy though, Aaron. Lamar Black Attack says, sorry, I got to tell you to get hand towels for the public restrooms because it may not be paper towels. Every time we go to the table, every time we go to the restaurant, every time we get room service, they just bring us a wet hand towel. And that's what you do your hands with over here in Japan. You don't get paper towel inside of the restrooms. That's a great fact. And so that's awesome. DJ26 says, you made it here in Asia, Anton. Have fun. I am having a ball, my friend. And I am not sleeping for some reason. I heard someone say if she not over 180, she not a lady. Shout out to Chris Bourne. I appreciate you. We Call BS says, appreciate AD. This is DeWanda, by the way. Shout out to DeWanda. By the way, this is our new channel where we call out the BS. Skin tone don't matter to us. Make sure y'all go over there to We Call BS and subscribe to their channel. I love DeWanda. Spin Rush RC came through and dropped that ball in the bag. I appreciate you. Give you the whole three count. All right, so make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Let's get into the show. You know, every day over here in Japan, I'm going to give you something different as far as what it is that I experience and what it is that I observe. Let's deep dive. Home Depot, right? So we've been having this conversation, and I'm going to be reading super chats throughout the show. We've been having this conversation about our cultural norms. And there's a security guard over at Home Depot in California because, you know, California is ground zero for theft because of the laws and the enabling of criminal behavior, and then preventing our legislators. Our legislators are preventing our police officers, our security, even business owners from being able to defend their property from being taken. But at Home Depot security guard is in hot water, and he's dividing the communities within California because he's shot a shoplifter. Let me say it again. A Home Depot security guard is dividing people and is really showing who we are as an American culture. They're dividing people because people are on the fence of whether or not the shoplifter should have been addressed, or if we should take more pride in not allowing our culture to embrace the worst parts of us, and then to have this bullshit being emphasized over in our culture and our social media, right? Let me go ahead and play it for you. I'm gonna be reading super chat shortly. Thank you to my guy Ash. Let's get into it. Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. All right, let's get to it.
Confrontation escalating to violence. A security guard at a San Carlos Home Depot opening fire on a suspected shoplifter last night. It happened at the store on Old Country Road just off of 101. Katie Nielsen found out security companies are seeing a surge in demand for armed guards.
Security companies, let's stop there. Business owners have their hands tied. They have their hands tied. We have legislation that basically says you can steal up to whatever it is that you want to steal. We have the no bail system to where they're going to let you back out on the street no matter how many crimes that you commit. We also live in a time to where they're also basically penalizing business owners and employees for defending the store and the products, because they're saying that low lives coming in and doing whatever it is that they want to do are under attack. Even to the point to where the guy that got addressed for walking in and basically fighting the workers over their cigarettes and jumping behind the counter, and then the workers and the owner defended themselves inside of the 7-Eleven for the story that went viral, right? he's being arraigned, but at the same time, there's also lawyers that's getting in touch with him that's basically saying, hey, you can go and sue those 7-Eleven owners. Let's go and get that bag, right? And so now that we see the problem being exaggerated and people just walking in and doing whatever it is that they want, the question to the general public becomes, how do we address it to where we prevent and we keep our neighborhoods safe, we keep our property values up, we keep our cultural norms similar to where they have it in Japan? You can lose your phone and they will turn it into the police station and then you can go and get it. Shout out to Aaron. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. Or is that life more important than us establishing a protocol or a standard within our community to where you shouldn't steal and you should keep your hands to your motherfucking self? All right. But there's a rise in companies requesting armed security. Armed security. They're willing to pay the extra penny in order to have armed security in their businesses to prevent themselves from being taken advantage of by people that's coming in and taking their stuff.
This is where that shooting happened around 10 o'clock last night as the store was closing. Shoppers we talked to today said they've seen armed guards in the store for quite a while. And when we asked if that was a positive or negative thing, opinions were mixed.
Today just happened to be with my daughter running errands, and I actually told her this is a pretty sketchy parking lot, stay close.
Nate Torsch and his 14-year-old daughter live in Redwood City.
This is our closest Home Depot to us.
He says he wasn't surprised when he heard about the shooting.
It is San Carlos. It's still better than most cities in the Bay Area, but it was only a matter of time that was going to start coming this way.
A worker boarded up the broken window early this morning, the only remaining sign of the struggle that happened Monday night as the store was closing. According to police, the suspect, later identified as 26-year-old Jonathan Mackey, got into a physical confrontation with the armed security guard as he was trying to leave the store with stolen merchandise. Mackey got a hold of the guard's baton and hit the guard in the head and arms repeatedly.
So, first question. Name, Jonathan Mackey. Do you think that Jonathan Mackey is a white man, black man, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, so on and so forth? Is Jonathan Mackey a part of the community? Is Jonathan Mackey ADOS, American descendant of slaves? Is Jonathan Mackey FBA? Is Jonathan Mackey on some panel somewhere on YouTube, on Clubhouse, or is he on Instagram having conversations about how we need reparations? And is Jonathan Mackey a part of your tribe? Because you can't divest yourself from these people just because they're criminals. Is Jonathan Mackey, who boldly walked in a Home Depot? I mean, they doing it everywhere else. They doing it at Nike. They doing it at the Gap. They doing it at Louis Vuitton. They doing it at Gucci. Nordstrom's just got taken over. They even hitting 7-Eleven and Walgreens, CVS, the whole 9 yards, right? So why not Home Depot? What makes you think that Home Depot in California is the exception and that you shouldn't be able to walk in and take anything you want, and we shouldn't value human life in the same way that they do when all of these other young people, teenagers, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26-year-olds come in and do what they want? Why shouldn't he be able to go in there and take him a lawnmower? He needs a water hose. Why shouldn't he be able to go in and get a water hose? Why shouldn't he be able to go in there and get a circuit breaker? It's under $950. It's under $950. So the law says that you should keep your motherfucking hands to yourself and you shouldn't address it, right? Wrong. Because when you then get opposed and say, hey, fam, you shouldn't be stealing in here, he can take your baton and beat you over the fucking head with it, and you still supposed to preserve human life, right? Because the thing that I'm hearing people say when I was looking in the comments, some of these videos, I was hearing people say, yo, he should have never approached him in the first place. That's the sentiment. He should have let him go. He should have let him walk out, and he should have never approached him in the first place. Now, me personally, I think that we need to nip this shit in the bud. It's already out of control. We need to go ahead and close the box and put it back in Pandora's box. But the only way to do that is to be strong. Heavy hand strong on people that's doing the crimes and the worst in the community. Otherwise, it's going to become a problem for everybody, and you'll never be able to put that genie back in a bottle. But he took the guard's baton and he started beating him over the head. Thank you for the super chat. I'm going to be reading that shortly. Let's continue.
For throwing the baton through the store window, leaving a hole and shattered glass. The security guard pulled out his gun and fired 2 shots at the suspect, hitting him once. A nearby San Mateo County Sheriff's deputy heard the shots and rushed to help. Both the security guard and the suspect were taken to the hospital, where both are expected to survive.
A very unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, it's becoming a common occurrence now.
Evan Frazier owns A&D Security out of San Leandro. He says with more and more violence occurring in retail settings, there's a huge surge in demand for security.
So, business opportunity. If you want to get a bag, now you're going to have to train them accordingly. Make sure you got your paperwork set up and your insurance for your company is all together, because you don't want to get sued. But if you want to get a bag, don't go and open up a retail store over in California. Open up a armed security company. If you want to get a bag, because everything is falling apart and Los Angeles is turning into Los Santos on GTA. If you want to open up get a bag and you want to charge what you want, open you up a security company over there in in Los Angeles or anywhere in California, and you won't be able to turn down enough work. You're going to be in so much demand over in California. See, when I see these stories, I see business opportunities. I don't have the ability to be able to nurture that business opportunity because I'm already overwhelmed. But if you want to get a bag, go and start you a security company. Make sure it's an armed security company over in Los Angeles, and you will be able to have as much work as you can handle, as many people as you can hire. You'll be able to pay them phenomenal wages, and it's a safety component in there, so you're not just going to be able to do it by any way. You're going to have to deal with shit like this. But if you want to go and get a bag, go and start a security company over in California. You will make a ton of money.
Security guards, especially for guards with advanced certifications to be able to carry a baton or firearm.
Even in the most affluent areas where crime is not necessarily a huge issue, they are starting to hire guards, just a matter of practice.
But when it comes to armed security guards protecting stores, shoppers have mixed reactions.
I know that theft has been rampant in a lot of these areas, but I think we have to come up with alternatives, otherwise people are going to continue to die.
So, it's dividing the community, because this man right here, I would guarantee you, is probably a happy wife, happy life type of guy. This is the type of man that probably helped us lose control of this country, and then it just spiraled out of control in the first place. They don't believe there are no alternatives. Either you're on the right side or you're on the wrong side of criminal activity. There are no alternatives because criminals do not negotiate with you. You listen, if you've ever been carjacked before, I've been carjacked before. They tried to take my life, tried to carjack me. You think that they was concerned about my wife, my kid, about preserving human life when it came to taking my shit? I got out of there by the hairs on my chinny chin chin and being situationally aware, and that first opportunity that I got in order to make an adjustment and make a go for it, I took it, and God just protected me. But if you think for even 1 second, because we keep talking about the preservation of life so that we can go ahead and put these people inside of the penitentiary and pay for their meals and their food and make them comfortable until they die out, pay over $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year per prisoner, continue to fill the prison industrial complex, and then complain about the fact that they got to make our license plates in order to give us some kind of value back. If you think that in even the slightest that they give a fuck about you, your taxes, your kids, your life, or what's going to happen, of whether or not you even got life insurance to be able to protect your family after it's all over, if you think that they care about you, you are sadly mistaken. You are incredibly mistaken, fam.
As a result of gun violence and, this kind of sort of sanctioned gun violence.
They're here to protect us, and I think they need to have what's needed to protect the people around them, and I mean, that's their job. And it's kind of hard to do that with a baton when the bad guys out there are carrying weapons.
Armed security guards do not go through the same training as police officers. The state requires security guards to have a minimum of 40 hours of training, then additional training courses if they want to carry things like pepper spray, a baton, or a firearm.
And back in April, a loss prevention worker at a Home Depot in Pleasanton was shot and killed by a suspected shoplifter. The case made it all the way to Capitol.
And look at who the suspected shoplifter was. I don't know if that's a man or a woman, but it looks like it's a woman. A woman, a black woman, blonde hair, back in April. This is this year, inside of a Home Depot. They was doing wrong, and then they wind up killing the Home Depot employee as a result of it. That man went to work, was looking to make whatever it is that he make per hour, take care of his business, ultimately pay his rent, and his family never got to see him again. And we're sitting here talking about alternative methods. Nobody cares. Nobody mourns. Nobody even bats an eye when a police officer dies. Nobody bats an eye when a security guard dies. Nobody bats an eye when we go into these movies and you watch The Town with Ben Affleck, and they go in and they shoot up, and you watch Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and they go in and, oh my God, the security guard talked, and so we got to take them all out because if you kill one, you got to kill them all. It's the same truck. Nobody blinks an eye. We're so normal. We're so we've been desensitized so much to where we don't even bat an eye when the people that are protecting us every day and not even making no money doing it suffers. But when a criminal has to be addressed accordingly, and a person like this can walk in and fucking kill a person that tries to stop them from shoplifting, ultimately we say that we got to come up with an alternative method because we care more about the criminals than we care about the people that's actually trying to put the businesses in our environment, that's trying to protect us from the criminals. We hate the police more than we hate the criminals. That's how it is here in America, California specifically. We hate the police more than we hate the crime and the criminals that perpetuate it against us. We'll pay taxes. We'll continue to fund the prison industrial complex. We'll say, hey, we'll pay 45, 50% of our taxes, give it over to the federal government. We'll continue to pour money into these communities and let them just bust the windows, ram their cars through the schools, fuck up everything, sell drugs in our community. And we'll protect and say free the homie, and we won't bat an eye when it comes to a police officer getting killed. That's how you know that we're in Sodom and Gomorrah, modern day right now. Let me read some of the super chats, and then we're going to move on, because we got a lot to cover today. Even though we in Japan, we still doing the work. Ash, my guy with the fireball, but you know he got to get that fireball. Ash says, AD, hometown. I hear you, brother, but for me, because of the downgrade of black culture, I never left Chicago. Chicago left me. And that's what I'm saying. I understand it, Ash. I get it, bro. I get that you saying that, yo, for me, I got to get the hell up out of here if I get the opportunity to do so again. I'm not criticizing that at all. I think you should. I absolutely think you should. The problem is that it's so hard to break free of a lot of the traditions that we have in American culture, boy. I'm telling you. To know that my Porsche is sitting there being unused and I can't zoom throughout the streets is tugging on me a little bit. You know what I'm saying, Ash? Shout out to my dog, Ash. Aaron says, ideally, I prefer the Kelly Rowland type of body. I don't even know what Kelly Rowland built like now. But shout out to you, Aaron. He also got a couple more that he want me to address. He says, that dude crashed out stealing a window fan. Was that what he was stealing, a window fan? Jesus Christ. Aaron says, my frat brother just started an armed security business, just bought an armored vehicle too. He said the bag is insane. Well, that's where y'all opportunities are. If y'all want to go and secure a bag, make sure y'all go and start y'all a security company, move over to California. It might be a little bit difficult for you to find a place to stay, but you'll be able to get a bag over there in California. Shout out to Aaron. Marriage, Politics, and Sports says another interesting show. You know that's what we do over here, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Afense Tishepe says you should visit South Africa or Ethiopia. You will see the most divine black women. I'm very interested to find out. Hey, chat, let me know where it is that these women that's so phenomenal, that has this dark skin, that are women, what they call them in America, women of color. Where are they? Where is these divine feminine, don't argue, ain't trying to hit you with a stick, don't have a lot to say, not overweight? Where are these women at? Where are these submissive, awesome women at culturally? Right? To where it's just a norm and you don't have to try to figure out whether or not this one is or whether or not she a chameleon. Somebody hit me off in the chat where these women are. Offense says it's at South Africa or Ethiopia. Do we got to go and visit South Africa or Ethiopia? Junior VK says ninjas will crash out over some Boosie rap snacks. And that's a whole fact back, big dog. Shout out to the Boosie rap snacks. The mugs is good too. Merit Politics and Sports says, I was thinking the same thing. Armed, trained security is a huge opportunity. Businesses and schools K through 12. I think that's where the bag is, if you can swing it. Ash says, in the words of Logic, we do not negotiate with terrorists. Do not be lukewarm with criminals. I agree. Fahim Jackson is in the building, says, Anton, you think Chicago bad? The whole state of Cali is bad. I was also in Oregon during my sister's wedding. In July, we got pat down going into the bar for drinks. Jesus Christ. Edmund 850 is in the building, says, just passed my AWS Amazon Web Services Solutions Architect Associate exam, working from home, looking to pick up a cloud engineering job. Greetings for the UK. Can we get a round of applause for the bag chasers that's out here securing the bags and doing the work? We appreciate you, big dog. Brock is in the building. Says, honestly, if people keep this up, our grandchildren will be arguing about whether or not to sign a bill to put robots on the streets like in the latest RoboCop movie. Shout out to Detroit for being ahead of the game. Shout out to my dog, Brock. I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you for holding me down, and thank you to all of the super chats. Lamar Black Attack is in the building, says, if you want to know what things cost in Japan, just cover the last 2 zeros on the price. That's a good way to do it. That's a really, really smart way to do it. Thank you, Lamar Black Attack. A little bit different, but yeah, that's about right. That is about right. Until you start getting into that higher level, and then you're like, oh, okay. But shout out to all of the people in the super chats, and shout out to everybody that's holding down a platform. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. I do not want to go over to a Teach Hanley commercial again. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Support the channel, and make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. All right, let's start getting into the money. All right, I want to start deep diving into the money now. This is the part of the show where it's a little less entertaining, but it's a lot more informational. Let's go into this first. Now, this gentleman's name is Micheal Oher or Michael Orr. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I did not watch The Blind Side, but The Blind Side was a movie that was starring Sandra Bullock. And it depicted a young man that basically was adopted by a family that ultimately made it into the NFL, right? And like all good things, it must come to an end. But this man, Mike, is now suing over a fake adoption. Now, you got to remember, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Blind Side. I don't know if you're ever familiar with this, but a lot of people were on the fence about it because, A, it was depicted as a true story in which there was a lot of truth to it. But you know how movies are. They have to sensationalize it in order to make it entertaining for you. But B, people don't like the idea that it was a big, strong, buck black man that was allegedly adopted into a family, a wealthy family that ultimately helped for him to become successful. But this man is now coming back and suing and saying that he's suing based off of the idea that he thought that he was adopted, but he really wasn't. And he doesn't like it. So make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's rock.
A former football star, an Oscar-winning movie, and millions of dollars, as the man whose story inspired the Blind Side movie is now accusing the wealthy white family who said they adopted him of not doing any such thing. We're talking about Micheal Oher, who was taken in by the Tuohys after living in poverty and foster care.
I have not seen this clip, right? I have not seen it at all, but I know that you guys sent it to me, and it's a story that's now becoming a thing. Living in foster care, poverty in foster care, ultimately took you into their home, gave you extra tools that you need in order to be comfortable and ultimately make it into the NFL. Help you get through college, was there for you. Now you guys got to remember, some people will say, well, why would they do that, right? They came up off of him. They wind up getting the bag from him as a result of it. Well, there's more to the story, but what a lot of people don't understand is that the father The man, the guy that's at the bottom, the white man that's at the bottom right there, the woman is ultimately the one that got all of the accolades because she was depicted by Sandra Bullock. The father actually sold all of his franchises, and he was rich before this man ever came into, before they ever even allegedly adopted him in the first place. And he allegedly sold his businesses to the tune of $200 million. So no matter whether he made it into the NFL or whether they made a movie or not, the family was already wealthy and well off. Let me say that again. A lot of people don't understand the backstory. The father and the family wind up selling their franchises and made over $200 million before even coming into this guy's life. So ultimately, they seen him as somebody that they could add value into his life. And he was living in foster care and he was in poverty. And then allegedly, they wind up taking him in. But, we gonna get there.
He played college ball at Ole Miss before spending 8 years in the NFL. It's an incredible life story, so incredible that it was turned into a best-selling book. That book became the foundation of the 2009 movie, The Blind Side, that earned Sandra Bullock an Academy Award, remember?
This team is your family, Michael. When you look at him, you think of me, how you have my back. Are you going to protect the family, Michael?
Yes, ma'am.
Bullock plays Leanne Tuohy, who adopted Oher, or so he thought. But according to these new court documents out of Tennessee, Oher says that's a lie, that they tricked him into making the family his conservators instead, and that they made millions off his name from a movie that, you see the quote here, that would not have existed without him.
You know what this sounds like? Either somebody is having money problems. It sounds like either he's having money problems or somehow, some way they must have got into an argument and fell out. And now he's feeling some type of way about it. Because nobody said anything for the 8 years that he was in the NFL, when they made the movie depicting his life, when he became a best-selling author and he kept 100% of the profits and the proceeds from the books that he sold. It was no problems. It was no problem when he wound up coming into their household and then they brought him in there or whatever, so on and so forth. It was no problem whatsoever when he was benefiting, right? But now, in 2023, he's saying that he wants to sue them and that the conservatorship, because he's had this conservatorship for his entire adult life. This conservatorship has been in place and he's never complained about it before. But now he's saying that it's unnecessary and he want to handle his own affairs and it wouldn't have existed. They would not have existed without him. Now remember, this is a family that had sold their franchises and their businesses to the tune of $200 million in profits. And they were already rich and well off. And then they wound up pulling them out of poverty and in foster care. And then they wound up making a best-selling movie as a result of it later on. All right, so let's continue. I'm going to be reading this super chat shortly.
Guad Venegas is joining us now. And Guad, this is a real shocker of a lawsuit, partly because of the time that has elapsed since Michael Oher was living with the Tuohys, was being taken in by the Tuohys, and now, right? He's basically saying he made nothing from the movie, from the book, et cetera, while the Tuohys raked it in. Help us understand the allegations and any response we're getting tonight from the Tuohys.
Hallie, there are a lot of questions as to why so much time went by before these legal documents were presented in court, right? So here's what we know. We know that back in 2004, when Oher was 18 years old and still living with the Tuohys, he says he was lied to, according to these legal documents, when they asked him to sign paperwork that he thought meant he was being adopted and becoming part of the family, but instead that paperwork put him in a conservatorship, and they became his conservators. Now, he says that they also made a deal for the film, the famous film that we all know, in which the family received $225,000 plus 2.5% of the proceeds. Now, that film also, the legal documents indicate, has made more than $300 million. Now, it also says that the conservatorship was going to end when he was 25, but the legal documents say that it was never terminated by the court, and ultimately the Tuohys had control over his contracts and any legal documents that he was involved in. So there's a lot of questions.
So let me back that up. Let me read that for the people. This is his allegations. Doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that it's untrue. But these are the allegations that's being levied against the family that ultimately took him in, right? Now remember, He was a best-selling author. He made a lot of money off of his books. He played it in the NFL for 8 years. And then ultimately they made a movie depicting his life. He said that he made no money off the film. Sounds like the money getting low. They received $225,000 plus 2.5% of the proceeds. This is what he's alleging, right? He has to prove this. They placed him under a conservatorship, not an adoption. I don't really know what the difference is, but we can deep dive into it. He said that the conservatorship was never terminated when he was 25, so it doesn't prevent him from getting 100% of the monies, his NFL contracts or whatever, so on and so forth, but it's saying that ultimately they have control over his contracts, okay? We gonna get to it. We gonna get into it.
His contracts and any legal documents that he was involved in. So there's a lot of questions, Hallie, as to how he's been under a conservatorship this entire time, right? Because he had a successful NFL career.
Now remember, somebody is saying right, but the family only made 2.5% of the $300 million. That's not true. The film grossed $300 million, right? So you actually have to take out the amount of money that it takes to make the film, pay the actors, market the product, print up the whatever, split the profits, whatever the movie houses are, so on and so forth, right? So the profitability. Now, this is what's being alleged. Now, the father got a completely different story, right? So the profits of the movie is not based off of how much that the movie gross. How much the movie gross versus what the profits are is different. So let's say, for example, if the actual film had made 50 million after profits, right? Or 100 million, right? Now you're talking about 1.25 or you're talking about $2.5 million off of a $100 million movie that we didn't even know whether it was going to be successful when they made it and invested money into it, right? But again, this is what's being alleged, and the father and the family got a completely different conversation. But we're going to get to that in a second.
But it's been indicated that it took him time to find out exactly what had happened and why he didn't receive any profits from this film. So there's a lot of questions that will be answered after this legal filing was.
Somebody said, I'm trying to understand why the F this enormous black man might have possibly thought he needed to be adopted by this tiny white family in the first place. It don't look right. Well, he was living in poverty and they adopted him when he was in high school and he was in foster care. So they got him, or they got to him, or they adopted him, or they took conservatorship over him at a time when he was living in abject poverty. What do you mean why he needed him? Because he was fucked up. And he still needed to survive through college. He still needed to be able to be fed. He still needed to be able to get on the team. He still needed to be able to be taken care of all the way up until the point that he got into the NFL. That's why he needed him. Just because you big don't mean that he knew how to provide for himself.
Put in court today, so this is the legal petition, but we still have to hear from the Tuohys. We have not heard a response from them. So in the coming weeks or months, we could see a legal filing coming from the family explaining from their point of view what happened.
What does Oher want the court to do now? Like, what is he seeking?
So first off, the legal petition indicates that he wants that conservatorship to end. Again, this would have started when he was 18. He is now 37. He's retired from a successful NFL.
So now you're 37 and you just now starting to okay, wait. At 37 years old, the conservatorship started at 18. 20 years later, 19, 20 years later, now you want to have a conversation about what it is that you don't like. Come on. Honestly, to me, on the outside looking in, just observing what's happening, and I'm going to break down what the father says, because a lot of times the news only want to paint one side of the story. We know how it goes. This sounds a little fishy. It sounds like some money problems is happening somewhere in there.
Career. So he wants that to end. And also he's asking that the family, the Tuohys, stop using his name and likeness, and also to pay him his fair share from the profits they could have made from using his name, Hallie.
Quad Venegas, thank you very much.
So let me share with you what the family is saying. They got a completely different perspective, right? Let's scroll down because we already know what his allegations are. Retired, depicted the movie 2009. He wants them to stop using his name and to pay their fair share. All right, this is what he's saying. They're accused of using that power to negotiate a deal that made them, including their two birth children, millions of dollars in royalties from the Oscar-winning film. They began negotiating a movie deal about the relationship shortly after the 2006 release of the book The Blind Side, Evolution of the Game, according to the film. Family members were allegedly paid $225,000 plus 2.5% of the film's proceeds. The film earned more than $300 million. All right, so that's what's being alleged, right? Alleged, meaning that he doesn't really know, but this is what he is assuming. An additional 2007 contract allegedly gave 20th Century Fox Studios the rights to his story without any payment. According to the filing, he alleges that he doesn't recall signing any such contract and was misled to think he was agreeing to something else. All right, so this is where the real fallout happened, and then you know what happens. You start deep diving into the money and to say, hey, you owe me some money. He's saying in his senior year in high school was when he signed the papers, hoping that the family he thought cared for him, an experience he detailed in his 2011 best-selling memoir, I Beat the Odds. So he released a second book, and he sold a lot of copies of that too. He said, it explained to me that it pretty much means the exact same thing as adoptive parents, but the laws were written in a way that took my age into account. That's what he said it was explained to him. He reportedly continued his life under that impression until he retired from the NFL in 2016. So in 2016, he had an 8-year run. He made a lot of money. He had best-selling books. He did 2 books at least that sold a lot. Offensive tackle, was drafted with the Baltimore Ravens, whatever, blah, blah, blah. All right, so the adoption, whatever. I want to get down to the meat of this, all right? He's saying that while he was learning about the alleged funds, now at 37 years old, he's starting to figure it all out and put it together, right? Withheld and a fake adoption was major blows. He said the film filing claims that his issues with the family began due to how he was portrayed as unintelligent in the movie. So this is where the problems began. Issues with the Tuohy family began due to how he was portrayed as unintelligent in the movie. So he felt some type of way about how the movie was sensationalized. He said that I'm really more intelligent than that, but this is how it began, and I didn't like the fact that I was portrayed as that in the movie, right? He said, I'm not trying to prove anything. People look at me and they take things away from me because of a movie. They don't really see the skills and the kind of player that I am. That's why I get downgraded so much, because of something off of the field. That's what he wrote. He wrote in his next book. All right. He said, there has been so much created from The Blind Side that I am grateful for, which is why you might find it as a shock that the experience surrounding the story has also been a large source of some of my deepest hurt and pain over the past 14 years. Sound like he got somebody in his ear. Either it's some money problems, he got somebody in his ear, or it's a combination of both. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. So he benefited from it. And now he's saying that this is some of my deepest, darkest pain. He probably got some therapy. He probably was listening to some baby mama on YouTube, and this is how he feels about it. All right. Let's get down to what the father says. The father said that the family is devastated. He spoke to the Daily Memphian's Geoff Calkins on Monday afternoon, and he said that the family are devastating after seeing the reports. He says it's upsetting to think we would make money off of any of our children, but we're going to love Michael at 37 the way we loved him at 16. So the father is saying, yo, we love this dude, and I can't believe that he turning on us. We don't know what the fuck is going on. We don't know if he got money problems. We don't know if he's finessing. We don't know what the issue is, but we still got love for him, because you just don't turn love off from somebody that you've been in their life for over 20 years, right? He said, Sean, now this is the father. The father sold most of his fast food franchises for more than $200 million, and also insisted that the money that they made from The Blind Side was minimal and split equally. This is why you need two sides to the story. Because the father said that, yo, we was already fucking bag chasers. We was already rich before you came in this thing. We took you in. We took you in. And this is why I keep telling guys that y'all have to be careful about the people that y'all let into your lives. It doesn't pay, whether you're marrying a woman that's a single baby mama, or you bringing in a dude that is a foster care kid that was fucked up and now you got to fix his life, right? You came into, how many people would love to come into a household that has a net worth of allegedly over $200 million. And now, 20 years later, after you benefited from our greatness, in a situation that we put you in, you want to turn against us. It goes on. Here, it doesn't get, it gets better. He says, we didn't make any money off the movie. Michael Lewis, the author of the book Blindside, gave us half of his share. Everybody in the family got an equal share, including Michael. It was about $14,000 each. $14,000 each. He said, including Michael, we all split it because we wasn't making no money from it. The author of the book gave us a piece of his share. We busted down equally, and it came up to $14,000 each. He said, we were never offered money. We never asked for money. My money is well documented. He said, I'm already a bag chaser. I'm already $100 millionaire. Somebody said they adopted him to make a bag off of him. How, when he was already filthy fucking rich? Let me scroll back up to you. Sean, who reportedly sold most of his fast food franchises for more than $200 million, said it wasn't even about the money. It's documented. How are they trying to come up off of him when they was already fucking 100 millionaires before he came into the picture? It's documented. Let's continue. He said, as for the conservatorship, Sean said that he would, of course, be willing to end it. He said, listen, if you want to take over your own fucking life, I don't care. All you got to do is tell me. You ain't got to go to the media about it. He said, we'll end it. The only reason they did it in the first place, because that was the only option. He said, while he's not happy to be defending himself, and he admitted that he felt a little distance in the relationship, about 18 months ago, he's willing to do whatever it is that he wants. He said it's hard because you have to defend yourself, but whatever he wants, we'll do. We're not in this for anything other than whatever it is that he wants. If he would have said, I don't want to be a part of the family anymore, we'd have been very upset, but we absolutely would have did it. No questions. The allegations are insulting, but look, it's a crazy world. You got to live in it. And it's obviously upset everybody. So he's saying, listen, you already know what my bag is. You already know what my bag is. I already got money. Look, he said, we were never offered money. We never asked for money. My money is well documented. He said, you better check my motherfucking resume. He said, the father said, my money is well documented. You can look it up how much I sold my company for. The last thing I needed was $40,000 from a motherfucking movie. He said, the last thing I needed, let me highlight that for y'all in the back. My money is well documented. You can look up how much I sold my company for. The last thing I needed was 40 bands from a motherfucking movie. I don't know what is going on. I know that man, and based off of my research, that he really did sell his company allegedly for over $200 million. His franchises before that kid came into the picture, right? I know that the boy is now, after 20 years, at 37 years old, is saying that, listen, I want to take my own life back. I want my own conservatorship. They say, yeah, all you had to do was say something and we'd have gave you what the fuck you wanted. I know that it's always two sides to the story. And so I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be paying attention to it. I'm going to be following it. But the fact of the matter is, you can't just take people's word at what it is when there's somebody else on the other end of that equation that hasn't told their part of the story yet. We can't jump to conclusions and say, oh man, well, they did this, or he did that. You got to look at it holistically, because when I even see these women jump on these panels, they say, well, he wasn't no good and he did this and then he did that. I know that if we ask that guy, it's going to be a completely different conversation. It's going to be a completely different conversation. But I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to keep paying attention to it. And here's my question. Why didn't he actually communicate with the family after their relationship got strange and they started getting distant over 18 months ago? Because it wasn't tripping until over 18 months ago. Then he started saying, you know what? I don't like the fact that y'all using my likeness. Why over these last few years, over the last couple years, now you starting to feel away? Here's my other question. Is it more important, regardless of who's right and who's wrong? Is it more important that you just completely separate it? And is there a bigger message in this, in that you should not be looking to get involved in anybody else's life? Fuck them kids. Leave them in foster care. What if they would have just stayed as a family and did their own fucking thing, never even did a conservatorship or some form of adoption in the first place, and let him stay in his whole foster care system? Do you think he would have A, been as successful, and B, do you think that the family would have been fine without him, even though they had already had all of his money? What's the point? And this is the thing that I keep having a dilemma with, is people keep telling people that they need to give up their money or they need to spend their time helping other people go back to the hood and do all of this shit. Well, what's the point? If at the end of the rainbow, somebody can come back and accuse you of something without actually filing a lawsuit, without actually communicating with you on what it is that they want before they go out to the media, if at the end of the day, I'm already fucking up, I'm already straight, I don't need you, the little bag that they giving me as a result of dealing with you, if I even got it in the first place, what's the point? Would the father and the family would have been straight if they'd have never met that motherfucker in the first place? A. And then B, what would have been made of him because y'all keep saying that other people came up off of him? I believe that there are other people that are in other people's ear that is playing a role. This could have been solved with a simple conversation between them two, but I think that it's something that's dividing them, and it's another part of the piece of the puzzle that we're not familiar with yet. But I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm going to see what's happening. So that's what's going on with the depiction of the star that was in The Blind Side, all right? That's what's going on. So let me read a few of the super chats, and then we're going to continue on with the show. So we got a few more things that we want to get into. Aaron says, Ethiopians and Cape Verdeans are beautiful. Interesting. But do they have the right attitude is the question. Do they have the right attitude is the question. Marriage, Politics, and Sports with the 10 ball says, Anton, why don't you hit up Austin Holloman? He has brought his passport expat game to Africa. His character arc has been tremendous. He can tell you where the honeys are. Well, I'm not looking for no honeys. I think I had Austin Holloman on the Millionaire Morning Show earlier this year or late last year. I think it was late last year he came up on the panel, or it may have been earlier this year. But I think that I had one of the passport bro dudes come up on the platform before. I'm almost 100% positive. Let me look it up real quick. Anton Daniels passport bros. Is his name at Passport Bros? Is that what his name is on the internet? Is Austin Holloman the guy that runs the Passport Bros channel? I have no idea. No idea. So Austin Holloman. Oh no. It's somebody different. I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah, it's somebody else different. So I did an interview with somebody else before on the Passport Bros, so it was pretty interesting. And I brought him up on a platform and a panel to be able to explain and give some insight on why it is that they are Passport Bros and stuff like that. So I don't know. Shout out to you, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. I appreciate you. Let me read some more of these super chats, and then we're going to continue on with the show. You also say, I refuse to see the movie because I hate white man's burden films, but I am not sure he should be suing because his life was changed regardless of how the story was told. I'm not sure that it's that, though. I think that you might be off. I think that what the story is completely different from what you portraying it to be, but who can say? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I've never seen the film itself, so I can't speak to it. Dame Dash is in the building and says, I went to an adoption conference with thousands of people in which his mother spoke, and she travels around the world selling books and merch, etc., about the adoption process. Oh, okay, I got you. Cool, that's dope. Thank you for the insight. Smiling Buddha says 115 after kids' baby weight looks better. Y'all agree with that? I don't know if they stay 115 on. Some of them blow up. DJ B Easy is in the building. Shout out to DJ B Easy. We appreciate you. DJ B Easy says you're 100% correct about Japan. I'm in Tokyo now and lived in Okinawa, 2 different places. Been here for a total of 8 years. I left comments on your last video. DJ B Easy said we over here in Japan running it up. Running it up. One thing that I'm curious about, and that's the thing that I'm looking to find out before I have a conversation with y'all on tomorrow's show, is what the money look like here. That's the one thing that I am curious about. Ash says, Ninja sounds ungrateful. What's really going on? What is this really about? He must be listening to Umar Johnson's white supremacy. Shout out to Ash. Omar H goes in and he says, Anton, I love your take on Japan. Western culture, specifically American culture, is experiencing moral decay at such a rapid rate. Is so sad. Shout out to Omar. I appreciate you, Omar. Fahim says, Mike married 2022. His wife, whom he's been with for 17 years, they have 4 kids, could be her in his ear. Now, you know women like to ruin the bag. Jay Ben is in the building, says, happy birthday in the building. Happy birthday to my awesome, charismatic, beautiful wife, awesome life partner, and amazing parent. Love you, to Shayla Bennett. Shout out to Shayla Bennett. I know her. She is absolutely great. I love y'all as a couple. Y'all are some of my favorite people. Shout out to my bag chasers, and happy birthday to the baby girl. Ash is in the building again with another one. Says AD, in addition to moving out of America, I think most prior military veterans who've experienced living overseas for more than 10 years, it becomes natural. Logic, working in Germany. I was recently offered a job in Germany. But I would assume that becomes your cultural norm. You know what I'm saying? That the thing that you're used to was the thing that you've been experiencing for the last 7 to 10 to 12 to 15 years. I get it, bro. It's great. It is. It's great over here. Bag for Bag says that man had a $21 million contract. He should have been asking his dad for some investing tips instead of trying to sue. I wonder how much these people net worth is after they leave their family and they start talking junk about their family. Anyways, let's continue. We got couple more things that we want to tap into. And recently I was alerted to this and I said, you know what? I wanted to talk about it yesterday, but it was a completely different theme show. But record $1 trillion credit card debt. Are y'all familiar with this? Record credit card debt has now hit over $1 trillion here in the United States of America. That's insane. And people keep telling me that, oh man, Anton, teach me the credit card hacks. I'm not teaching you nothing because you don't even know how to manage what you have effectively. You have no clue on how to manage what you already have effectively, and y'all keep trying to tell me to teach you the hacks. Teach me how to be able to get to the bag, the credit card hacks. Tell me how it is that I can run it up. I'm not telling you nothing. That's just credit card debt. That has nothing to do with mortgage debt. Has nothing to do with car debt, repos, personal loans, school loans. I think that the country is headed for a crash eventually.
Johanny Solano lives in Hayward and says she doesn't live beyond her means and doesn't carry any credit card debt.
But I learned to respect money with the credit cards. They charge you a lot.
Yeah.
A lot if I don't pay at the end of the month.
Paula Glines went years without a credit card.
No, we said none until I got married. And then we said, okay, We'll get a credit card to buy our ticket in San Francisco. We move to Australia.
Those are success stories. There are others not so successful. Keeping track of credit card use, both good and bad, is Ted Rossman's job. He's a senior industry analyst with Bankrate.com.
Interest rates, I mean, the average credit card now charges over 20%. So that minimum.
Can you imagine? Think about that for a second, y'all. Hold on. Think about that for a second. The average credit card interest rate. This is highway robbery. The average credit card rate, interest rate on credit cards. Remember they had rate hikes. Remember that they was trying to tackle inflation. And to in a sense, they kind of did so successfully, right? Remember when the cost of doing business continued to go up? Because money is no longer cheap. What does that mean when I say money is no longer cheap? What we usually call cheap money is usually close to free money. Free money, and I want to give you a little bit of insight. Free money is essentially you being able to borrow without it costing you much to be able to pay it back. So now you're able to leverage whatever it is that you have from a credit perspective because interest rates were so low in order to continue to make a bag, right? You can leverage other people's money in order to make money, right? But most people, that's to a seasoned investor that is actually leveraging the money to make more money. Most people use it as an opportunity to buy more stuff or to support their lifestyle. That's the difference. And now when we talk about credit card debt, because there's a specific way in which you have to use credit cards. I need a credit card, right? I don't even know if I got one on me. My main cards this is my main card. This is my main card. This is what I use for pretty much everything. It's a Chase Sapphire Reserve. I use it to basically travel. You can't get a rental car. You can't hold a hotel room. I would not be sitting here staying at the Ritz if I did not have a credit card. More importantly, my hotel room that I'm live streaming this out of right now cost me $11,000, but I actually didn't even pay for it because my points, because I use so much money, and I have such a high credit limit. And I use so much money on being able to purchase the things that I purchase every day, including the materials, building a house, and all of that. And I'm not going to get into that because I already live streaming that inside of the Patreon. So if you want to find out exactly how much money I've spent in the Patreon, and you want to see the receipts and all of that other type of stuff and how much money I make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. However, because I make so much money and I spend so much money, because I have to leverage what it is that I make in order to make more money, while also getting rid of my tax burden, I accumulate a lot of points, but I pay zero interest. And the only thing I use it for is business expenses, especially related to traveling and taking care of business. If I need to go and buy a new camera, I go and buy a new camera. I pay the bill off 100% in full. I've never paid interest ever on this card, ever, right? But that's looking at it from a business perspective because then I'm leveraging the points in order to basically point hack in order to be able to pay for stuff that I otherwise would have to spend $11,000 on, right? When I bought my plane tickets for me, my wife, and my daughter, it cost me $31,000. I've already showed you the receipt for that. I actually used this card to do so, and then I'll be able to leverage those points in order to be able to pay for the hotel room. But it is a business expense. But most people, they use credit cards to buy shit that they don't need in order to impress people that don't give a fuck about them. And now, on average, the interest rates is over 20%. Most people don't have the discipline to even be able to live below their means. Most people don't even spend enough money to where those points that they're accumulating would be relevant enough. Most people don't spend enough money. You do not generate enough revenue. You do not spend enough money. You cannot pay off the balance in full to actually be able to substantiate living that lifestyle. Here's the other hack about it. Credit card companies understand that the incentive to get you in is not the thing that's going to keep you. So, for example, they're going to get you in and saying, well, you just pay off the balance, or you can do a transfer cash balance, or all of this other type of stuff, right? You never pay interest. For 99% of the population, that is not the case. They get in like that. They say, well, I'm going to just pay the balance off in full. They don't. And also that card gives them a false sense of security and that they can go out and spend more than they normally would if they was to pay cash or they was to pay with a debit card because they don't operate on a budget. And so now we see an exploding amount of debt while everybody is telling you that they ball and everybody telling you that they doing what it is that they want to do. We see an explosion of debt, which is not conducive for your lifestyle because you're paying over 20% interest month over month for something that you don't even need to impress people that don't care anything about you.
Payment math is really brutal.
How brutal?
If you have the average credit card balance and you make minimum payments at the average rate, you'll be in debt for more than 17 years.
And for some,
if you pay the minimum balance, meaning that you're basically paying majority interest, you are not eating into the principal. You will be paying that credit card for the next 17 years. You've paid for that thing 20 times over that you paid for with a credit card, and you just financing your life, and people don't even care nothing about that thing that you bought 17 years ago.
That is a best case scenario. If you have bad credit, your rate is likely around 30%. Do you have credit card debt?
No.
Have you ever had credit card debt?
Yes.
She has credit card debt right now. She capping. She got credit card debt. You got to read it in their eyes.
San Francisco's Layla Decker used credit card debt strategically to get her education. She was just as strategic when paying off her debt. How'd you get out of it?
Work extra, take on an extra job during college.
Smart. Rossman says.
I call cap. I call cap. Let's go into it.
Credit card debt in the U.S. has reached a staggering record high, topping $1 trillion for the first time. This, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, as millions of cardholders carry balances month after month, year after year. CNBC's senior personal finance correspondent, Sharon Epperson.
Shout out to Slim Tebow. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. I appreciate you.
Joins us now with strategies to help them pay it off. You got to pay it off. Their interest rates are so high.
You have to pay it off. But it's inflation and robust spending that's really helped push Americans' overall credit card balance.
For most people, you shouldn't even have it in the first place. For most people, all you doing is giving money over into the banks that you complain about. You keep saying banks are evil. You don't like the banking system. But you keep on getting credit cards and giving money over into them in the form of your car payment, in the form of your credit card payment. If you think about how credit cards work and how credit work and the interest that you guys are paying, you could either think about it one of two ways. You can think of it like, if I get a 30-year mortgage on this house, then I'm probably paying for it 3.5 times more than what it cost me. You buy a $300,000 house, you probably gonna wind up paying close to $1 million for it. By the time you pay off your house with the interest and everything on it, and the house is not going to appreciate to the point to where you actually can justify that purchase, because then you also have to take into account the cost of maintenance, the utilities, the property taxes, paying the real estate agents that wind up selling your house for you and all of that. When people really do the calculations, the math ain't mathing based off of what they're being taught and what they're being incentivized to do by influencers on social media, because they're not telling you the truth. You're paying for that house after 30 years, probably 3.5 times more than what it cost you, whatever the purchase price was. You're going to spend over $1 million on that house easy if you pay it off within 30 years. And then people say, well, Anton, I'm just going to double up on the payments. Bullshit. I know you lying. I know you capping. I know you can. And now credit card debt alone has topped over $1 trillion.
Past the $1 trillion mark in the second quarter, and that's according to New York Fed researchers. After a series of Fed rate hikes, interest rates, though, on credit cards have now risen to over 20% on average, and that's making it an extremely expensive way to borrow money for Americans using credit cards to cover basic household costs and many other expenses, too.
That's how a lot of people justify being able to cover a family emergency or an emergency expense. They say most people don't have $1,000 to be able to cover an emergency. Get a flat tire, you got to go to the hospital, you get a hospital bill, you got to go and bail your baby daddy out of jail. Most people don't have $1,000, but they got them credit cards, and so they'll leverage that and say, actually, I have the ability to be able to cover an emergency. But then it's really costing them more because they're not going to pay off the balance because they couldn't afford to be able to pay that with their credit card in the first place.
It's not just folks who absolutely have to use cards. It's folks who are doing it because they want to. Maybe they're investing in a small business or remodeling a house or whatever the reason might be. You have folks with a lot of money who are running up credit card debt.
Somebody said, what is capping? It means I don't believe you. Somebody said they still getting used to my vernacular. You'll get used to it. When I see people capping about the fact that they're going to pay off their stuff, they're going to double up on their payments, I know they lying. I know they capping. They're not going to do that. They're going to pay the amount that the bank says. They may pay it for 1 or 2 months, but they're going to go back to making the payment that it says on a statement, and they're going to pay high interest for the rest of their life.
And many of them are carrying that debt for months or even years. So here are a few strategies to help pay it off. First, call your card issuer and ask for a lower annual percentage rate. A Lending Tree survey found about 3/4 of consumers who asked for a lower rate in the past year got one. Also, try to snag a 0% interest balance transfer card. These cards offer 12, 15, even 20 months with no interest on transfer balances. Now, once you get one, you got to be aggressive about paying off as much of the balance as you can during that introductory period. And if you have balances on multiple cards, figure out whether you are going to prioritize paying off the highest interest debt first or start with the smallest balance and work your way up to the
biggest way to be able to pay off your stuff. The problem is not paying it off. The problem is preventing you from continuing to go back into debt in the first place. The problem is not paying it off. The problem is the fact that you're not changing your habits that allow for you to get into it in the first place. And so the biggest way that they say that you probably should pay it off is debt snowballing. That's a Dave Ramsey term, is the debt snowball. I actually support it. Dave Ramsey, in my opinion, the investment advice that he gives is very, very sound. He's phenomenal at doing it. He sells a lot of books as a result of it. People love him because he's spiritually based. And the debt snowball is actually a great system. The debt snowball is basically you got 5 different credit cards. You don't necessarily go off of the one that you're paying the most interest on. You basically take the one that got the lowest balance. You pay the minimum amount for all of the other ones, and then you put as much money as you can on the one with the lower balance. And then you snowball what you were paying into the smaller one, into the bigger one once the smaller one is paid off. And then the same thing, you repeat it up and up and up. And basically the amount that you're paying is basically multiplied, and then you're eliminating all of the problems by then preventing yourself from continuing to hold on to debt long term while getting small victories and then scaling those victories up. The best way, and I agree, the best way for you to be able to pay off your credit card debt is to snowball. Just do the debt snowball, right? When you really start getting money, then you'll do a reverse snowball when it comes to investing in whatever it is that you're investing in and doing the same thing except for the opposite while building assets and building up a nest egg for you to then be able to make more money and retire off of ultimately. But that's a completely different conversation. Most people finance their lives away. Most people is on Klarna. It's not just credit cards. They've convinced you, and the banks have convinced you that it's smart for you to be able to finance homes. It's smart for you to be able to finance cars. It's smart for you to be able to finance things that you can't write off. You pay more interest, which is the way in which the banks make money. And then the only way that they lose money is if you default, in which they then have to sell, take back whatever it is that you had, sell it, like, for example, a car that's repossessed, and then they take a loss on it as a result of it, and then they write that down anyway, right? But my point is that y'all gotta solve for the reason that you was in that situation in the first place. Student loans, credit cards, financing cars, all of this shit is dumb, especially when you can't even make no money from it.
Largest balance. One strategy isn't necessarily better than the other. Experts say just make a plan, stick to it, and get it done.
Get it done is the most important thing.
That's the most important part.
A lot of consumers will have to make a lot of tough choices when student.
Ain't nobody getting no extra job. You know what a woman's plan is? Go and find you a good man. Let him take on that debt, and then I can go and retire even though I ran up the bag and did what I wanted to do as a result of it. I want to know, a lot of times when we have these conversations and we say these women come into these relationships with debt, is they're not coming in with a clean slate. They coming in with a bunch of debt, and they want to combine our debt with your debt so that you can take care of it and you can work your ass off, kill yourself, pay off her debt, and then eventually you're going to die off and she's going to go and get remarried and she's going to be in a really good situation because she also gets your insurance money. But here's my question, right? When we taking into consideration getting into relationships, are y'all having conversations about not how much they make or what their position is or how awesome they are? Are you having a conversation about how much debt they have? how they manage money effectively. Because if I have to come in and I have to take on your debt, for example, what did you use the money for that I'm now paying for? And do I get to keep the stuff that you then you paid for that you ultimately have the debt for? Is all of that furniture my furniture? Is the car that you bought that the man then fucked you in the back seat, is that my car? Do I inherit that also? Right? Did I essentially see, this is the way my mind works. If a woman used debt to then buy a car that I have to then pay for, but then in that same car she used it to do some dumb shit, did I essentially basically go back and pay retroactively? I'm paying for the thing that she did and have fun with that I don't necessarily get the benefit from. When I say I look at everything from a business perspective, I just look at life differently. Think about what I just said for a minute. She used the debt to go in college, slut it out. She bought a car that she got bust down in. She went to the club and she got dressed and she used the card to pay for her outfit, her hair, her nails, whatever it is that she wanted to do in order to be able to put herself in a position to get chose for that night. She did some crazy shit. Now, let's say that she comes into the relationship and I now inherit that debt because I marry her, I don't get a prenup, and then she then retires. She says that I'll automatically somehow go from a modern to a traditional woman, so I just want to work from home and take care of the kids. Did I essentially, now that I'm paying off the debt, pay for you to go and do some of the dumb shit that I don't even get the benefit from? You see how that works? Like, the math is not math in me because I don't get to benefit from what it is that you did. I didn't even get to slut you out before he got to slut you out. I got sloppy eighths. And that's why I say, yo, you can't just say, okay, I want a woman to do this and do that. I need to understand what your past traumas are. I need to understand what your past traumas with regard to money is. How did you manage it effectively? Not just whether or not I can manage it, but how is it that you then got yourself into this situation? And why should I be the one to have to be responsible for it? Why didn't you come into this? Because when we say we need to come into these relationships whole, I'm not talking about just from you healing from the fact that you've been in a relationship and he said that he loved you and he fucked you and he left you. I'm talking about, did you fix your debt and your obligations and pay off your student loans and pay off your credit cards and whatever else in your car that you're now asking me to pay for, talking about we got to combine resources? Why should I have to do that? When you come into a relationship whole, I'm going to save that for Wednesday. Y'all letting me get into my Wednesday talk. I'm not going to get into the Wednesday talk yet.
Loan repayments are due again in the fall. So what are some tips, advice that you would give them?
Well, there are tens of millions of people that are carrying debt year after year. And so that is a big concern now with student debt repayments starting in October. That's a big X factor.
On top of it, now y'all going to be having to pay y'all student loan payments too? Yeah.
Will people be able to afford to make their credit card payments? So now is the time that financial advisors are saying, make sure that you find out what you owe. Call the loan servicer, which may be a different one than 3 years ago. Make sure you understand what you may owe if you do an income-driven repayment plan, and that may be a way to cut those monthly payments, maybe even in half. The problem for parents who have loans, those plus loans do not really fall under income-driven repayment plans. So that's going to be really tough. So budgeting and making these hard choices is what people are going to have to do.
But just like any debt also, Sharon, you have to consider the interest rate that you're paying, right?
Yes.
And so your credit card debt might
The best interest for you to pay is no interest.
be a much higher interest rate than your student loan debt, and you do have a grace period on your student loan debt.
You have 12 months before it hits your credit report, so that's very important, but I think that's a really important point. This is a variable rate that's going to go higher on credit cards. Fixed rate loans, that's something that you, again, have to prioritize that perhaps higher interest debt and getting that paid off. But finding out if there's some way that you can try to budget those payments, putting that money now in a high yield savings account, that's the silver lining of these interest rate hikes, that we're getting more money on our savings in those high yield accounts.
Put your money in a brokerage account, fuck a high yield savings account. That's bullshit. Let me read a few of these super chats and then we're going to continue on with the show. Slim Tebow is in the building, says, Capital One just gave me $4,000 increase and I was doing flips. You swipe $31,000 on the card, I got to step it up. A lot of y'all seen it.
I can show it to you. Let me see. I don't mind showing y'all. You know me. I think I showed this before though. Anyway, I think. Yeah, I did swipe 31 bands on the card. No, I ain't got no money though. Let's be clear. I ain't got no money. I don't have no money. Don't sit here and say it. Nope, I don't know nothing about it. I ain't got no money. Yes, I did swipe 31 bands on a card. I think I showed this to y'all already before though. Where's the receipt for this? I want to get over into this other story, so I don't want to harp too heavy on it. Where's my receipts at? Anton Daniels, profile, trips, Sky Miles, receipts. I'll go over it at the end of the show. I'll come back to it at the end of the show. My trips, is that what I want to go into? Details. I'll go over to the end of the show. I don't want to slow the show down because I got some other things that I want to cover. But shout out to you. Roger Main says 848 FICO. I've never paid interest in over 20 years. Zero debt. I paid off the house in 3 years. Cars paid off. Credit card companies hate me. Congrats. Yo, let me give a round of applause for that. Let me give a round of applause for that one. I think that deserves a round of applause. Shout out to you for killing the game, big dog. Shout out to you for killing the game. I think that is absolutely awesome. Congratulations, my friend. That is dope. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Pat Fobbs. Shout out to Pat Fobbs. Pat Fobbs says banks can raise interest rates on any card you have if you have one late payment, even if it's from a different bank. I don't know nothing about it. Y'all on your own on that one. Anyways, let's move on with the show. I got one more thing that I want to share with you guys before we get into it. And I think that this is a good one. How much home can you afford to buy? How much home can you afford to buy? Oh, here's my receipt for it. Here we go. Yep, that's it right there. That's my dog. That is my dog. This is where I swiped. Swipe or no swiping. Here, I'll share this with you really quickly because you know, Anton, I have no problem with sharing the receipts. Let's see if I can get a screen capture on this B. Copy, paste. There you go. 30 bands, 10 bands, 50 bands. Bam. Visa. 9832, 3 passengers. 10,100 apiece for 3 passengers. That is what we got over here, man. So yeah, that's what I swipe 30,000 on one card, and that's how we get it. Shout out to T-Rex. I appreciate you for the super chat. Shout out to Andrew Green. We're gonna get to those super chats shortly. But let's get back to what it was that we was taking care of because I want to be able to add value into y'all before we get up out of here. How much home can you afford? How much home can you afford? I skipped yours, young boy. I didn't skip yours, did I? Let me go back. I promise you I'm going to capture it. I did not forget about you, big dog. I am not going to forget about you. Okay. All right. I got you. I got you tapped in. I'm going to make sure that I get you this super chat, all right? How much home can you afford? How do you know how much home you can afford, right? Because a lot of people do it based off of the percentages of your income. If you're a part of the Patreon, right, then you know the way that I teach my people to budget is based off of percentages. Fixed expenses, variable expenses, there's a percentage of your income maximum that you're supposed to allocate in order to be able to spend on home and living and all of this other type of stuff. And so I have a specific formula that I give over to the bag chasers, and I don't force them to do their budget based off of how much they make. I force them to do their budget based off of a percentage of their income, right? And when they really get to a certain level, what I teach them to do is not to raise how much they're paying based off of their income, but then to raise how much that they're investing so that they spend a smaller percentage of what it is that they make on whatever it is that they're trying to invest in or whatever it is that they're paying for, right? So when you get to a certain point where you acquire enough assets, you start generating enough revenue where it only takes a small percentage of your income in order to be able to substantiate the fixed expenses, right? The amount that you're paying for a home, they're saying it should only be based off of this percentage of your income. But when you start to make money off your assets, you don't raise the amount that you're paying because you're making more money. You just reallocate a percentage of that income. So now let's say that it takes 10% instead of 20% of your income in order for you to have these fixed expenses or variable expenses. Then you allocate more money in order to really start to be able to invest so that your assets pay for your lifestyle. You see what I'm saying? So I teach a completely different thing inside of the Patreon. If you've ever seen that video, then you understand how it is that I allocate things based off a budget. Make sure you watch that video, not just the Fleece Johnson, not just all of the interviews. Watch the game video so that I can help y'all get to that bag, all right? I'm going to be reading these super chats shortly. Thank you, guys. But here's the thing. How much can you afford? And can you afford to buy a new home? Because the conversation is always, well, it's better to buy instead of rent. Okay, I have not watched this video, but somebody sent it to me, and so I'm going to use it to be able to break it down. I've been holding on to it for a little while, but I'm going to use it in order to break down what it is that I'm emphasizing. How much house can you actually afford by salary, okay? Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Get your Teach Hanley 30% off your first order plus a free gift. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen.
In this video, we're going to discuss how much housing you can afford based on your salary, and I actually have 3 example salary ranges for you guys.
So he's using 3 different salary ranges. He's using 40, 80, and 150,000 in order to emphasize this point, okay?
Someone making 40K a year, 80K, and $150,000 per year. Mortgage rates were as low as 2.65% in early 2021, and as of recent have actually shot up to the 6.5 to 7% range.
So First point of business is mortgage rates were very, very low as 2.5% back in 2020 and 2021. Why? Because the federal government wanted to stimulate the economy and they didn't want anything to slow down, which is one of the reasons they kept giving you money, and they wanted to incentivize you in order to continue to buy homes. That's also one of the reasons why inflation was out of control, because people had a lot of money, money was cheap, and people were willing to pay over what the real price of that home was, which then inflated the prices and it raised the cost of living because it was a trickle-down effect that basically affected everything else. So, for example, a lot of y'all don't remember, but at the time, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people was paying $100,000, $150,000 over asking. They was buying it way out in the suburbs, not expecting ever to go back into the office again. They didn't take into account that student loans would be coming back in 2023 in September and October. And so a lot of people did a lot of shit. They bought homes without no kind of inspection, and they was in these bidding wars. And so I was telling you guys at the time, sit it out, chill, wait. Don't find yourself in a bidding war in order to continue to try to fight with people that don't even know what's in their own best interest. Just relax. Everything will come down. But then you guys now hit me off with these questions and you say, well, Anton, should I refinance in order to pull the money out of the house? Well, now you're facing a dilemma because you want to use the money to reinvest, but at the same time, you don't want to pay the higher interest rates because money is still cheap, right? But let's continue.
This means that having a mortgage payment these days is going to be a lot more expensive than merely just a year or a year and a half ago for the same home. Also, if you're renting, the median price of rent has also shot up in the past year, with rents up 10% or more year over year in cities like Cleveland, Indianapolis, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Charlotte. And the median rent right now in the United States sits at around $1,942 per month. So today we're going to cover both sections, renting or buying a home and its affordability, and we're going to discuss those with the 3 salary ranges that we had in in mind. Now, if you just want to skip the rental part, you can go straight to the housing affordability part. I'm going to leave a link down below with the timestamp. When it comes to renting a place, there is a rule of personal finance out there that your rent should not. Rule is called the 28 and 36 rule. This is more of a rule about how much of a payment you actually qualify for in the eyes of the lender. And then the second rule is called the 30-33 rule. That's designed to give you a guideline on what you should be able to afford. But first, let's cover what the 28 and 36 rule is. The 28 and 36 rule states that your monthly mortgage payment should not be more than 28% of your monthly gross income.
Now, most people do not follow this rule. Most people do not follow the idea that your monthly mortgage should only be less than 28% of your monthly gross income. And he's going to break this down. But think about it, right? So if you make, because remember when a lot of people were trying to hold me accountable over the idea that I told y'all that making $40,000, $50,000 a year was not going to be enough in order to support a family of four. Okay, cool. So your monthly income, gross, that's before taxes, okay? Monthly income gross before taxes. Now, the tax rate, if you make under, I think, $79,000, $80,000 a year is something like 12%. So we're talking about gross, all right? Now, if you're grossing $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year, and I'm sure he's going to go over this because I haven't watched the video yet, but if you're grossing $50,000 a year, right, what is 28% of $50,000? Well, the easy way to do it from a mental math perspective, if you don't want to go and get a mortgage calculator, is all you have to do is multiply it to 100. So it's much easier for you to be able to calculate 100 and then break it down in half, right? So if you go to 100 and you do 28% of 100, that's basically $28,000. And then you cut it in half and now you're at 14. So if you're basically making $50,000 a year, you're basically paying the equivalent of $14,000 a year in monthly mortgage payments. That's basically what it is. And again, it's gross. It's not net. The smart people calculate it based off of what they take home. But housing prices have gotten so far out of control that most people don't feel as though they can compete, and they looking at what their eyes are telling them instead of what their budget can afford. All right, let's continue.
Come in order to get a mortgage. So if you make $80,000,
shout out to Jay Woodfin. I'm gonna be reading that super chat shortly.
A year, that means you're going to take that gross salary of $6,666 per month and multiply it by 28%.
So basically you can take that $14,000 divided by 12, and then that's whatever it is that you should be paying monthly.
That should get you $1,866 per month.
That's $80,000.
That's the mortgage payment that you can technically qualify for. At $40,000 a year, that payment comes down to $933 a month. And at $150,000 a year salary, it's $3,500 a month. So
if you make $40,000 a year, your mortgage should only be $933. If you make $80,000, it should be $1,866. All right. So now, let me add a couple caveats in here because it's a couple things that people are not taking into consideration. What if you put less than 20% down? That means that you probably put 3.5% down, right? And you now have to pay PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which adds to the amount that you got to pay in your monthly mortgage, which means you get less house, but you're paying more because you put less than 20% down. And this is assuming that you're probably getting a 30-year mortgage and not a 15, for example. What about homeowners association fees? You didn't calculate that because the only thing that you cared about is making sure that you got the house and you got approved, and you didn't take into consideration that the homeowners association fees, especially in Florida, or these cul-de-sacs where you think that you're going to be paying to live, the homeowners association fees is a lot of fucking money. Some places in Florida, I've seen homeowners association fees be $350 a month. Do you take that as a chunk of what it is that you're paying? What about property taxes? Most mortgage companies now add in the homeowner's insurance. Didn't throw that in there either. Homeowner's insurance and property taxes are now a part of your mortgage payment in order to ensure that you can keep the house, and most people don't take those into consideration either. So when you're looking at this, a lot of times people are just saying, what is my mortgage? They're not saying, what is my mortgage that also includes PMI, that also includes property taxes, that also includes homeowners association fees, that also includes insurance, And so they're not actually breaking down to you the importance of understanding how money works and how it's going to affect you. And then remember, you have to pay this mortgage for the next 30 years.
The first part of the rule. The second part of the rule is the and 36. So what that refers to is that your monthly mortgage payment plus all your debts, so for example, your credit card debt, your student loan debt, and your auto loan debt, that entire payment together needs to be less than 36% of your monthly gross income. That'll likely mean that you are approved for a mortgage. Now,
so basically the amount of debt has to be less than that percentage amount in order for them to feel comfortable enough to feel like you can manage money well enough for you to be able to get approved for the mortgage, all right?
I want to clarify something here. Just because you are approved for a mortgage doesn't mean that you can technically afford the mortgage. Those are two very different things. Being approved for a mortgage just means that you likely aren't going to default and not pay the bank back. The bank doesn't really care if you have existing savings or a 401k or anything that you're trying to basically build up to. They just want to know if you can make the payment or not.
Because the bank's concern is not whether you can retire, is whether or not they can extract the profitability that comes with approving the mortgage that you are now going to be paying them for the next 30 years and putting money in their pocket, especially in the early parts. Banks don't even care about whether or not you start paying it after you owe less than 5 years, because the majority of that then goes over into the principal. The banks care about how much money you giving over in fees and then how much money that you paying in interest, which largely the majority of what you pay in the early part of the mortgage go into the interest and not towards the principal. And so you're largely dependent on A, the home to appreciate, and then B, most people don't really extract the most value out of a home until you lived in it for at least 10 to 15 years, because that's when you can start to hopefully extract the value from it, hoping that the economy is not completely fucked up and that we're not going through a downturn and then the price of your home is depressed as a result of it because nobody can afford to buy a home and it is actually a buyer's market instead of a seller's market, right? You have to live in a home for at least 10 to 15 years for you to actually extract the value out of it before you sell it, in order to really understand how the money works when it comes to paying for and buying a home with regard to banks when you finance it.
The rule, in my opinion, is to try to keep all of your housing payments, so that includes your mortgage, your interest, your property taxes, and your insurance. If that entire payment is less than 30% of your take home or your net income, then you're going to be in a super, super great spot, and you'll be able to save it and invest as well. However, I do acknowledge that that particular rule is not very realistic, especially for a lot of the higher cost of living cities. So on the topic of affordability, let's cover the 30-33 rule. This is a much broader personal financial rule, which will tell you how much of a house you can actually afford. The first 30 of this rule refers to the fact that you should spend no more than 30% of your gross income on all your total housing payments. And
I think the number that I have inside of the Patreon is like at least, is it between 20 and 25%? I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
That includes your mortgage, your property taxes, and your insurance. Now,
so it's all inclusive. Mortgage, property taxes, and insurance. It didn't throw homeowners association fees in there, but we get it. You also got maintenance. You also have bills. You also have utilities. So the true cost of home ownership is not fully calculated in what it is that he's communicating here, but it's not calculated across the board when it comes to the industry standards.
When mortgage rates are lower, that means you can actually afford more of a home, because when the interest rates are low, then the mortgage payments are going to be low as well. So on a $500,000 mortgage at 3% interest rate, your monthly payment is $2,108. But that same $500,000 home at a 7% interest rate is $3,327 a month.
You see the difference of why they say that money is cheap? Because if you borrowed in 2021 and you got it at a 3% interest rates before they really started raising the rates, right? Then the difference between what it is that you're paying in interest. Now remember, the difference in 2,100 versus 3,300 is basically the amount of money that the bank is making in interest for loaning you the money anyway. It costs them more money in order to be able to borrow it because of the deposits and all of this other type of stuff, and so they have to pass that fee over to you. Remember, when they give you money, it is largely in the bank's interest for you to continue to pay the interest on a home, because that is how they're making their money. You put your money into the banks, right? When they meet a certain deposit threshold, they have to make an informed decision of whether or not you are actually a qualified borrower, because they don't want you to default on the payments. Ultimately, when they loan you the money, they want you to buy as much house as possible. And then all of the difference in what it is that you pay in interest goes over into the bank. It doesn't go into the mortgage. It doesn't go into your pocket. It doesn't go into the principal. That is the difference in what the bank is making today versus what it was making in yesteryear. The question is, how do they balance being able to make it affordable enough for you to still be able to borrow? And the only thing that you care about is the payment. You don't care about the fucking interest rate.
So back to our 3 salary ranges as we were discussing. If you make $40,000 a year, that means you can afford $1,000 per month on your housing payments. If you make $80K a year, that's $2,000 a month. And if you make $150,000 a year, that means you could afford to spend $3,750 per month.
Here's the thing that I'm trying to communicate to you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because there's no point in beating a dead horse. I want you guys to start looking at money, payments, financing, mortgages, credit cards, whatever it is that you do, relationships. Not only do I want you to look at it from a business perspective, but I also want you to understand the cost of money. I want you to understand the true cost of doing business, the true cost of making a purchase. How much is it going to cost you long term in order for you to be able to make that purchase? Or is it even worth it for you to be involved in it until you get yourself into a place to where you can actually afford it, right? What's the difference between putting 3.5% down versus putting 20% down? Just to say that you own a home that technically the bank owns, you don't own it, because if you miss the payment up to 3 months, they're gonna come and take that shit and they're gonna foreclose on it. Right? I want y'all to start not looking at things based off of what you can afford from a payment perspective, but what is the true cost of me inserting myself into this thing in the first place? The minute that you start having a different conversation about it like that, you'll start to make more informed decisions. You'll start to have more success. You'll start lowering your lifestyle in order to then put a bigger down payment so that you pay less interest. You'll start keeping more money in your pocket that you can then pass on to your daughter and your son. You'll be able to pay for them to go to college, and they not under the debt load or the burden of trying to get somebody to forgive their student loans because they couldn't really afford to do it in the first place. You'll start to have a trickle down effect on your entire life that would allow for you to be more successful. And then that is what generational wealth tends to look like. It's a mindset that comes from understanding, not based off of how much you make or how much you're able to make a payment on. It's how much you keep because you become more informed and you're no longer voluntarily ignorant. The biggest problem with people and consumers in general is that they are voluntarily ignorant, meaning that they're putting themselves voluntarily under duress just because they don't want to learn or don't want to understand, or they don't find this type of content to be entertaining enough, but they willing to spend money on shit that don't even matter and give it away over to the banks. And then they wonder why 1% of the population own 90% of the real estate and they house hack differently than what it is that you think house hacking really is. It's a different mindset. We playing a different game. We in a whole nother way in which we're trying to acquire wealth while you think that the game is based off of what they teaching you on an Instagram post because somebody stood in front of a house that was big as fuck, but you didn't really understand the fact that what they was paying and how they financed it and that they wasn't going to be able to afford it long term anyway. I seen an actor. What is that actor? He's a part of the alphabet community. What is that guy's name? God, what is that actor's name? And now they got the writer strike and the actor strike. And it's only been a few months, and this dude is saying that he already got to sell his home because he can't afford his home anymore. He's like a really big alphabet community actor. He's a black guy. Real sassy. Real sassy. What is this guy's name? Let me look at this guy. Hold on. What is this guy's name? If y'all know what it is, now he's openly sassy. Billy Porter. Billy Porter, that is his name. Billy Porter. Billy Porter. Yep. Check it out. One of the most popular, walks down all of the aisles, does all of the shit. Just because these people is on these platforms does not necessarily mean that they get into a bag. Billy fucking Porter is his name. That is his name. And the name of his game is not having no money. All right? Let me share it with you. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you today. Billy Porter got to sell his house amid an ongoing strike because he's still check to check. He's still check to check. Does all of the red carpets, has all of the people endorsing him, putting their gowns on him and all of this other shit, right? Still check to check. Can't even avoid a strike. Talking about this summer has been a financial strain so much because he's trying to be forcing himself to stay afloat financially, and he got to sell his house. Sorry. He said he has to sell his house because they've been striking for a few months. Has to sell his house. Y'all better stop idolizing and worshiping these celebrities. Y'all better stop idolizing and worshiping these celebrities. These people are not the people that y'all should be looking to for advice on how it is that y'all need to manage. Y'all idolizing and worshiping them, and they trying to figure out how the fuck they gonna buy some water. They trying to figure out how they gonna get some water to be able to put it in their dog's mouth. And they walking around on a gown, and y'all thinking that these people is doing it. They not. These people are down bad. They down bad. Bella, I am in Japan for business. They down bad. Y'all worshiping them because they walking across your screen and they keep selling y'all this narrative of they awesome. They wearing these busted ass chains. They got a bunch of lab diamonds in them. They getting all of their dresses and gowns borrowed, and they down fucking bad. They struggling. They check the check. They trying to figure it out. And a writer's strike is going to expose all of them. You streaming. All of your favorite rappers, when a pandemic hit, they start doing verses for $300. Come on, man. Y'all got to stop worshiping these celebrities. They don't know shit. They can't help you. They can't give you no insight and understanding on how it is that you need to be able to live your life. Y'all worshiping these people, and these people ain't got a dime to their name. They about to sell their house, begging for cash apps and donations, and major movie actors walking all of the red carpets, and y'all worshiping them like they somebody. They don't know shit. Don't know nothing. Let me read these super chats and I'm gonna get y'all up out of here. Shout out to Youngboy24 says, HH at 17, 1T mortgages, 12 trillion. Oh, okay, I got you. 17.1 trillion in mortgages, 12 trillion in auto, student loans at 1.6 trillion. Shout out to Youngboy24. I appreciate you for tapping in, my friend. Thank you. I went back and got that because I missed it. I try not to ever miss a super chat because I never asked for it, but I do appreciate it, so I got to acknowledge you guys. T-Rex says national government debt is at 30 trillion. Bad example for citizens. We're a debtor's nation. We're literally a debtor's nation. So Andrew Green says, hello, Mr. Anton. Wow, on the brokerage account idea. Enjoy your vacation and family. This is all business, but we're going to enjoy it while we're here. We appreciate you, Andrew Green. Bam Bam Lynch is in the building. Says pay $70,000 for the first house, put $25,000 into it. Appraised for $340,000. Can we get a shout out to you, big dog. Michael Newcomb says, how do you solicit new clients and customers, big bro? It depends on what industry you're in. You got to network effectively. You literally have to network effectively. If you're just trying to get new clients for a business that you have, like a restaurant or a product that you sell, then that's one thing. In order to get new clients, if you're a software salesman, that's different, right? Because you got to establish relationships. If you're trying to find new clients as far as trying to buy your house, it's a different strategy with that, right? So it just depends on what business you're in. Again, I say it all the time. People buy things because they like you. The best way for you to continue to acquire clients is word of mouth. It's not necessarily ads. Ads should be supportive. Also, how you market yourself online is very, very important. So it just depends on what industry you're in. I appreciate you for the 20 ball. You need to probably tap into the Patreon and send me a message on Patreon. And then we can go from there. But shout out to you for the 20 ball. I appreciate you for holding me down. My dog, Jay Whitman. said over 250,000. Wow. My dog over there in LA killing it. And available credit, not $1 paid in interest in the last 10 years. Mastering the credit game is a must. I hold these credit card companies' money hostage. Forget them hacks and learn discipline, respect, boss. Shout out to my dog, Jay Woodfin. I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you for tapping in with me. My dog, counselor MG, Mr. G Live says, what up, Anton? Just catching one of your lives. I'm glad to see you on one of my own stomping grounds. I'm in Japan. JAPAN is in the building, Tokyo to be exact. I used to hang out in Tokyo 10 years ago. Great place. Your report is accurate for the most part. See, my people, my dogs, they tapping in. They saying, what up, though? My dog, Jay Woodfin, says, my home maintenance, gardener, pool, housekeeper, and gas, insurance, property tax, and warranty, etc. is damn near $40,000 a year. So when we talking about affordability, they're not getting it, Jay Woodfin. This crap is wild. How can anyone live making $50,000 in 2023? Remember when they was on my head about that, bro? Remember when they was on my head about that, Jay Woodfin? They was talking mad junk. Anton, you should be able to live with 4 people in the household making $47,000 a year. I said, where they do that at? Shout out to Roger Marine, says Billy Porter can auction off his booty. Jesus Christ. Y'all saying call Fleece Johnson and tell him to get in an interview with Billy Porter? You could probably go and get Billy Porter for a song right now. Have him on a live stream doing all kind of wild shit right now. I should go and interview him just because. Ronnie Robinson says, good morning, Mr. Anton. Hope all is well. Please, preaching about moolah. Shout out to Ronnie Robinson. I appreciate you for holding me down. My dog, Persevere Data TV, is in the building. Glad I caught the ending. Got a restream. No, I had to bag. Listen, the only time that I allow for y'all to be able to miss a show and not catch the live, but then restream it, is if you go in and collect another bag as a result of it. Persevere Data TV understood the assignment. He absolutely is rocking out. It is literally 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in the morning out here in these streets. And Anton is up right now, cooking up as live as I am when I'm in a studio back in Detroit, adding value into your life. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody that continue to hold me down. I appreciate you. I love you. I appreciate you. Make sure that you guys tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Teach Hanley, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. Support Teach Hanley if you support me. I love you. I appreciate you. You guys have been absolutely awesome, and we are going to be doing the same thing tomorrow. I need you to do me one more favor before we get up out of here, though. Make sure you share this with your family and friends. We don't want to be rich by ourselves. I love you. I appreciate you. You guys have been the greatest friends and audience ever. If you're not a part of the Bag Chasers, tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. If you did not watch the Q show, go back and watch that. That is on the Anton Daniels channel. And then more importantly, make sure you do the thing that's in your own best interest and don't fumble the bag. Be selfish before you can be selfless, because you can't help anybody when you're trying to pour out of an empty cup. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'm going to talk to you later. Peace.